For over a year, people across Los Angeles slept with their lights on, loaded guns on nightstands, guard dogs in the yard. Because somewhere out there a man was breaking into homes at random in the middle of the night, and by the time anyone realized he was inside, it was already too late. The press called him the Night Stalker. It would take an entire city, a photograph in a newspaper, and a furious crowd on a street corner to finally bring him down. Los Angeles, 1985. Through the spring and summer, a string of break-ins and murders started popping up across the county, and then up into the Bay Area. Different neighborhoods, different victims. No obvious pattern that police could pin down at first, except there was a pattern. The attacker was breaking in through unlocked windows and sliding doors, usually in homes near freeway on-ramps, an easy way in and an easy way out. He struck late at night, seemingly at random, and vanished before dawn. By the time investigators connected the cases, they realized they weren't looking at a handful of unrelated burglaries. They were looking at one of the most prolific serial offenders California had ever seen. Hardware stores sold out of deadbolts and window locks. Gun sales spiked. Entire neighborhoods installed floodlights. This wasn't paranoia. It was a rational response to a killer nobody could predict or profile in the usual way. Detectives from multiple jurisdictions, LAPD, the LA County Sheriff's Department, San Francisco PD, had to set aside turf and start sharing information. That in itself was rare for the time. Ballistics tied several shootings to the same weapon. Shoe prints at multiple scenes matched. Slowly, a task force began piecing together a single offender responsible for a wave of killings and assaults stretching from Los Angeles to the Bay Area. But they had almost nothing on who he actually was. No name, no fingerprint match in the system yet. Just a physical description from surviving witnesses. Thin, tall, dark hair, often described as having notably poor dental hygiene. The city gave him a name before the police ever could: the Night Stalker. The turning point came from something almost mundane: a car. Investigators recovered a stolen orange Toyota linked to several of the attacks. Inside, they lifted a single usable fingerprint. At the time, California had only just begun rolling out a new statewide computerized fingerprint database, one of the first systems of its kind in the country. It took days of processing. But the system spat out a match, a name investigators had never previously connected to the case: Richard Ramirez. 25 years old. A drifter with a lengthy arrest record, originally from El Paso, Texas, with no fixed address in Los Angeles. On August 30th, 1985, before Ramirez even knew police had identified him, his photograph ran on the front page of Los Angeles newspapers, along with his name, for the very first time. He had no idea the entire city now knew exactly what he looked like. Ramirez had been out of state, unaware his face was suddenly everywhere. When he got off a bus back in East Los Angeles and stopped at a corner store, someone recognized him instantly from the morning paper. Word spread up and down the block in minutes. What happened next wasn't a tactical police takedown. It was a crowd. Residents chased him down the street. He tried to steal a car to escape and was pulled out and beaten by bystanders before police finally arrived to pull him out of the mob and take him into custody. In a strange way, it wasn't advanced forensics or a stakeout that ended the manhunt. It was ordinary people who'd been terrified for over a year, refusing to let him walk away. The trial that followed was, at the time, one of the longest and most expensive in California history. Ramirez was ultimately convicted on multiple counts of murder and related charges, tied to attacks across Los Angeles and Orange counties. In 1989, he was sentenced to death. He spent the next 2 decades on death row at San Quentin, filing appeals that never succeeded before dying of complications from cancer in 2013, never having faced execution. Part of what made this case so uniquely terrifying wasn't just the violence, it was the randomness. There was no single victim profile investigators could use to predict where he'd strike next. He moved between cities. He varied his methods. For over a year, that unpredictability was his biggest advantage. What finally undid him was a combination of things that had nothing to do with a hidden pattern: a fingerprint database that had just come online, a newspaper willing to run his photo the moment police had a name, and a community that reacted the second they recognized his face. The Night Stalker case is a reminder of how much police work in that era depended on the public, and how a single photo in a newspaper could end a year-long reign of terror in a matter of hours. If you want more deep dives into the investigations behind history's most infamous manhunts, subscribe and turn on notifications, and let me know in the comments which case you want covered next.